There we go. All right, welcome in Beautiful Life Lab. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to pop in for our live stream today. As you saw, I scheduled this to be today at 2 o'clock Eastern. Gave you some bonus days this week to finish up the lab work. So say hello as you are hopping in live. I'm going to just make sure I've got my comment stream pulling up here. If you prefer, I'm dual streaming over on Instagram right now. If for some reason you can't get into the Facebook group. Thank you, Instagram liked the sweater too. This is free people. They have great sweaters, you guys. I actually have this in a few colors and it's just super chillin'. And it definitely fit the vibe of today. I had the best morning going through all of your comments. I read every single one. It took me a little over 3 hours. And you guys were super engaged below the lab assignments. And the purpose of this live stream hangout together today is to wrap up the collective focus of the assignments that we've done over the last few weeks. I'm also going to announce 10 winners, okay, at random. I basically grabbed all of your comments and put them into a generator and chose 10 winners. I want to go through, I think we're all here that are meant to be here. Most of you will be watching the recording. I know we've got about 40 or 50 of you in live right now. So I'm going to get started. I have a few things I want to go through with you before I announce the winners. Okay, so as I've just shared with you, this is the wrap up of our collective focus on the lab assignments. And so as you may know by now, this program is open to pop into at any time. I mean, whether you are just jumping in, maybe you joined us a couple of days ago and you're just trying to get caught up on the assignments, or maybe you purchased last year during the launch. I noticed a lot of you saying that you actually jumped in last year, and then this year is when you're really able to get into the meat of the assignments, because maybe there were a couple of assignments last year that held you up a little bit. For some of you, even the very first assignment we went through, cleaning up your phone, the main source of distractions in our life today, that could have been actually a heavy one for you, and so maybe that held you back a bit. And what I want to do is actually go through what we've done together as a recap. Okay, if you are just jumping in, or maybe you just didn't have time to work through the assignments, rule number one, most important, be patient with this process. This is not something to rush. This is not a sprint. This is the work of leading your life. This is possibly the most important work you have done in your life to date. Because this is challenging you all to become very intimate with where your time is going, tuning into your inner mentor, not looking outside of you at what the world would like you to focus on and what the world defines as success for you. No, this is about you tuning in and really listening and really casting that vision on your life of stepping into the person you know you're here to be, thinking about that human being, that woman, that man that you know you're here to be, and every day taking steps forward in the direction of that human being and walking out the life that you know you're here to live. So be patient with this process. Even if you've only made it to the second assignment, I want you to continue this most important work. Give it the time that it deserves. Many of the people that finished the lab work that are on right now, they were able to carve out the time in order to do this. Now, one of the changes we made this year to the assignments is I gave you an extra day in between each assignment, right? So we actually started these assignments November 15th. And so you received a new assignment every day, every other day, until we had 10 assignments done, and then I gave you a little bit of extra buffer time. So call to action, our CTA right now, if you have not completed the 10 assignments, what I want to encourage you to do is take a look at your calendar and carve out the time. Generally, each assignment is going to take you between 1 to 2 hours, sometimes less, depending on how much you need to clean up and tune in. But give yourself that buffer time, plan it, carve it out. It's ideal if you can do this before the end of the year, simply because there is a natural energy that you're working with as you begin a new year. Whether you, even if you don't want to buy into all of the goals, and New Year's resolution talk, I mean, I'm with you there to some extent, but there's a natural energy that you're working with, a natural momentum as we begin a new year. So maybe it's the last week of December when things kind of slow down and you're in your home, and perhaps a lot of the holiday visiting has finished and you've got some extra time to sit with you and your lab work, okay? So what I want to first do is recap the work that we've done together, the assignments, and then I'm going to get to a little bit more info about the live streams we'll be doing quarterly together, and then I'll announce the 10 winners, okay? Now, what I was super pumped about, Facebook is a tricky environment these days to find what you're looking for, to be engaged, to access the information that you're wanting. Within groups, especially, it can be difficult to find the information and engage as you want to. And what was super cool was to see hundreds upon hundreds of you engaged in each daily assignment. I think Lab 1 had over 300 people that engaged and cleaned up their phone. And what I will say is, if you're hearing me right now, one thing to do, especially within the programs that I run, is to turn on notifications. To follow the group, you can click the 3 dots at the top, or if you click, I'm just trying to think of where it shows if you're actually on Facebook. Yeah, it's still 3 dots. You click the 3 dots, and then you edit the settings so that you receive information. And the reason I'm letting you know that is that when I run programs within groups, so whether it's the lab or maybe you're in my Ready, Set, Glow program, the group goes somewhat dark in between live runs. So you don't have to worry about receiving notifications. I'm very protective of that. I'm not going to bombard you. So if you want to turn on notifications so that you don't miss anything, then I would take the opportunity to do that while I'm talking about it right now, so that in the future you don't miss any content. But it was super cool to see so many of you engaging below the 10 assignments. So let's go through what we did together over the last 2.5 weeks. Okay, I've got our printout right here, which I'm sure you guys have seen many times now. This was attached within each of the emails that I sent out for the 10 assignments. Made sure it was nice and front and center so you knew where you were heading, right? But number one, the very first assignment we began was tracking our time. So this is a very revealing exercise, right? It doesn't matter how long you've been tuning in and being very aware of your time. There's always opportunities to change things up. In my personal awareness, one of the things last year when I began this process, one of the things I realized and I really wanted to shift this year was that I was doing a lot of unnecessary things at night that were not promoting forward motion in my business or promoting health in my body. I was staying up too late, and what I realized was that nothing really productive was happening in my life after 10 p.m. So one of the things I shifted as of last year, and it's probably the thing I'm most proud of personally when I think of 2019 and what I was able to finally do, which has been kind of on the list for years, was I was able to integrate a 9:30/10 o'clock bedtime and get up at 5:30 in the morning. And that used to be, that just felt so hard in the past. But through tracking my time and really getting real about, well, what was happening after 10 o'clock and what would I like to see happen first thing in the morning? How would I like to feel when I'm starting my day? That was a big shift that came for me through tracking my time. So we began there together. We started tracking our time. In fact, this was part of your first 3 assignments because we tracked it for a whole week, all 168 hours, so that we had a real good buffet to look at to give us some predictable averages. of where our time and our focus was going. Within Lab 1, you scrubbed your device. So that's where we saw the highest engagement of all the assignments. You guys loved that assignment, taking your phone, organizing things into folders, moving everything off the front screen so that the very first thing you see when you turn on your phone is something that inspires you, is something that lights you up. Perhaps it's a quote or a picture of your kids, something that perhaps reminds you, like an elastic band, to not reach for that phone as a point of distraction, right? What I also loved seeing was a lot of you made your virtual vision board, which was part of Lab 9. You made your virtual vision board your screensaver. So you turn on that phone and you have a tight connection with where you're going, how you're leading your life. And it's that simple thing can cause us to say, yeah, right, I'm not gonna check Instagram right now. I'm not gonna do it, okay? So then we moved on to Lab 2, we continued tracking our time and we scrubbed our calendar. Many of you transitioned from paper to digital. Now, I am a big advocate of writing things down. I love a good paper planner in front of me. However, when it comes to optimizing your life and your systems, it's very helpful to work off of a digital calendar such as Google Calendar, which I promote. I don't love using Google as a search engine, but I do love a lot of their tools. Google Calendar, Google Docs, Gmail, which I reference throughout the program quite a bit. And Google Calendar allows you to, and I mean, a lot of digital calendars allow this, but we use Google Calendar as the foundation for the calendaring of this program. Automating in your calendar what you want to make sure does not get missed in order to create the life you want to live. You automate those things. One of my favorite things to do is to automate on a weekly, monthly, and annual basis the things that I used to always forget about doing. If I do something great in my business, let's say, and I don't want to ever forget to do it again at a certain time of year, I plug it into my calendar as an annual. It automatically pops up. Something that freaks a lot of people out in my family, in my team, they'll look at my calendar for the year of 2025 and it already looks pretty full. But it's actually not. It's simple things that I'm automating that are already there, and it's just, I mean, you just don't have to think about a lot of these things, and that is the point. You only have a certain amount of energy that you can dedicate towards making decisions every day, and the point of optimization is to be able to remove a lot of those things so that you don't have decision fatigue. When you need to make your best decisions quickly, especially if you guys are not only a leader of yourself, but you're a leader of a team, you need to be somebody who can make decisions quick and not doubt yourself. And if you have a lot clogging up your mind, a lot of distractions coming at you, you're not able to do that. So this is where Google Calendar can really help us out in that area, is we remove a lot of the extra thinking that we might have to do or have typically done. Lab 3, we scrubbed our inbox. So many of you through the last 2 weeks got your inbox down to 0, and you now have a system for keeping it that way. It doesn't mean you're responding to everything all the time to get there. It means you have systems in place, such as using the snooze button, because you've designed your week. So maybe there's a certain day each week now designated towards follow-up conversations, or maybe there's a certain day each month now designated towards financial hygiene. So you snooze emails that come in, so they come in on that particular day that you are prepared to deal with them. One of the biggest traps in our world today is the trap of thinking you need to get back to everybody right away just because they want you to. Even a simple thing like answering your phone every time it rings, or texting somebody back right when they text you, is illustrating your commitment to other people's agendas. I'm a big talker of this. I've talked about this for years now. You should be very hard to reach during times during your day when you are either head down in the work, doing your best work, or when you are committed to being super present with your family. You should be very hard to reach. And over time, you teach people that that's what's up. Not to be rude, but to, through that, teach them that it's okay for them to do that within their life, okay? Lab 4, we finished tracking our time, and we now plugged it in to categorize it and to really understand where all that time was going and we transferred it over to a parking lot. The parking lot is a space to hold all of our ideas, to dump everything out of the mind so we can see it and categorize it and prioritize it. Lab 5, we did some reflecting. I think the Lab 5 assignment asked you which of these questions really struck you, right? Really lit up those cells and had you thinking, yeah, that's one to marinate on. I think the most popular question that you guys shared below that assignment was, what is a story you've been telling that doesn't serve you anymore? And also, what is an area that doesn't align with your vision, and how have you contributed to these conditions? As you likely feel through this work, all of this work leads us back to ourselves, right? It leads us back to being honest about our life, our results, our happiness, the state of our health, and how we're managing our time. And it invites us, this work invites us to take personal responsibility in these areas, to say, no more, no more. I am not going to allow that story to run my life anymore. I am going to lead my life from a place of ownership. And I, only I, have the ability to do that and to make those changes. And that is the work. That is the most important work we could do in our life, because whatever else we think we're here to do in life begins with that foundation in place, okay? Lab 6, with clarity, we were now ready to get into the realms of our life, right? To get to think about where we've come from, the story of this past year, and to cast our vision on 2020, to get really clear about how we want to feel in various areas of our life, within our self-care, within our career, within our relationships, and within our personal development. So really getting into the grit of it, and then deciding, of all these things I want to feel and accomplish, what are the top 3 for this year? We cast that vision. So we put it into the dream wheel, right? I love this dream wheel because it's so simple and so powerful. So what you did was, after you dropped everything into the realms, your realm worksheets, you wrote powerful I am statements for each of these 4 realms, okay? Now, one thing I encouraged you guys to think of doing was create one to recap 2019, the highlights, what really stood out to you, where were those inches in these areas last year? And then cast the vision on 2020. Okay. In Lab 7, you began the virtual vision board. So what's powerful about that, the dream wheel is pretty and it's simple, but to create a vision for ourselves that has the emotion of our goals, not just a story, not just a statement, but really evokes an emotion in us. In fact, if anybody else was to look at your virtual vision board, it wouldn't have that same impact on them. It might look pretty, but there are certain images within your board that you look at and it's go time. It just charges you up. It connects you on an emotional level to where you are going, to the life that you're creating and leading. So Lab 8, we did some blueprinting. We thought about how our days have been going, and we designed a new day. We designed a template for our day that's going to support us in feeling the way we want to feel. Now, there are a lot of people who will advocate for just winging it and for just living in flow and not having any intention around where your time is going. You know that that's only working if it's working. And hey, that may work for some people. But I think that the way that we spend our time is one of the greatest illustrations of gratitude we could ever show in our life. And through that, we are given more. Through that, we live in abundance because we illustrate that we can be trusted with more. And our time is so limited. Now, I've shared this before. If you guys have known me for a while now, I'll tell you where this work actually came from, how this visited me, and why this work is so important to me. I feel the tension of time. I lost my dad when I was 10 years old to cancer. He was 35. I've already lived longer than my dad lived. A couple years later, my little sister died of leukemia. We went through a year-long battle. Hardest thing to even imagine. I still don't even know. Being a mom myself, right? I think that's one of the most painful things you could ever go through. And these experiences early in my life, you guys, gave me such a deep respect for the life that we're given and the short time that we are here. And it's not that I don't have freedom within my time. In fact, the very opposite happens through this work. When you are intentional about where your time's going, you feel complete freedom because you learn through that to lead yourself, and you're free of worrying about the judgment and acceptance of other people. That fades away the more that you nurture how much you care about your life, okay? Lab 9 was about casting our vision on the next quarter. So looking at Q1 for the new year, January, February, March, taking the work that we've done on the vision board and the dream wheel and really thinking, okay, January, February, March, what am I wanting to most get up to and accomplish? What would feel good come end of March to know that I moved deeply with intention in these areas, because they are what is important to me. And sometimes, you know, there are seasons to things. There are seasons, for example, Q4, every year for me, October, November, December is heavy creation and serving mode to my community and to my team and to my brand. In Q1, I move deeply into relationships around me with my circle. I keep a small circle. I show up big in that area with my family, okay, and with a couple of close friends. That is what's most important to me. So there are seasons, right? And you decide. You decide what that's going to look like and how you lean in. You finished your vision board in Lab 9, and then in Lab 10, the last assignment was to think about your first week of the new year already. A lot of you did say that was so cool and helpful to be able to think about what it's going to feel like to with intention, live through that first week of the year, because you've got your daily blueprint. You can see how it all comes together in that last assignment. And I want this for you all. I want you to experience what that feels like to have this work done and to have the courage to live this work day by day. That's the goal of the lab. And so we're going to check in with each other on a quarterly basis. Now that this work is done, you guys, we want to navigate this together. And so what I'll actually be doing is every quarter, right within our Facebook group, I'll be taking you through an hour-long live stream, recapping the previous quarter, having us all show up with that part done, and then casting our vision on the next quarter. And each of these live streams, I'll have a particular topic for you that's going to help anchor a lot of this work, you know, as we kind of chunk it throughout the year. So our first Q1 live stream, just grab your calendars, is December 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Yes, it'll be recorded right in our Facebook group. If you're ever looking to access this video, for example, as a recording, or any of the quarterly live streams, just click the videos section of our Facebook group and they're all there. I'll actually create a unit for each of the quarterly live streams, a unit called quarterly live streams, and they'll all be there. While I'm talking about units, if you are just jumping into the lab, no problem. What you want to do is you want to go through the units in the order that they're listed. So you'll see, you get into the group, you click on units. I'll go there right now. And you'll see there's a welcome unit, which has your program ebook, because I know sometimes you misplace it, right? It comes to your inbox right when you register, but it's there for you. There's a welcome video. You'll see just, miscellaneous stuff to welcome you there. Then there's a video tutorial section, which has the Happy Phone, calendar, inbox, etc. All of your lab sheets are in Unit 3. So if you ever want to reprint something, such as the weekly lab, it's going to be there. The lab assignments is Unit 4. So this is what we're recapping today and announcing the winners of. But there you can navigate and lead yourself through those 10 assignments. And then there's other fun things, and there's the check-ins. So that's where I'll host our live streams each quarter. Q&A section, hot tips from the community. One of the best communities right here, you guys. We have, I don't know, what are we at? About 3,000 of you in the group. No, sorry, 2,400. And I'm always watching for great ideas and tips that have come from the community. So I save in that unit. So let me just see. The one other thing I wanted to challenge you guys to do, and I'm going to announce the winners next. And if you have any questions, go ahead, post them into the group in capital letters. I'll take a little bit of time at the end to answer questions. My encouragement to you is to declare your vision for 2020. So I often see people say that that's a futile thing to do because you never know how life's going to go, right? Things could come up and totally take you off onto a different path, right? And of course that can happen. But without any idea of where you want to go, then your life's just going to take you in whatever direction. In fact, you'll find that you are you will be caught up in comparison mode throughout this next year. You will be distracted at a higher level than most people. Because again, if you don't have any idea of where you're going and aren't steering that, then anybody and everybody is going to grab your hand and take you in whatever direction they want to take you. So I want to encourage you guys, if you haven't done this yet, finish up your virtual vision board and post it, declare it. Maybe you make it your Facebook cover of your personal profile. Maybe you share it on the Instagram grid, but share it. I'm going to share mine later this week. I'm going to first really speak life into what the experience of 2019 was for me in image form. And then I'm going to share my vision for 2020. And just, again, it is most inspiring to me. It may not mean anything to anybody else, but you post it there as just a reference point for yourself, okay? Hashtag it so our community can see it if you want. Hashtag Beautiful Life Lab, and we can find your virtual vision board for 2020. Okay, I'm going to announce the 10 winners right now. If you guys have questions, post them, okay? I'm going to read out the names, and then later today we will post an image with the 10 winners. Just we want to make sure you saw it. If your name's announced, please, I'll tag you in the post, but we need your address, okay? So we've got a special oil blend for each day and a Rocking Vibes Soul Sparkle bracelet coming to you if you're one of the 10 winners. We'll need your address so you can PM my assistant with your shipping address. We're going to mail these out this week. Okay, ready? I hope I say your names right. Kate Galloway, Jenny Glyden, Mackenzie Housen, Kira Charisse West, Kat Bedger, Lauren Worthington, Kelly Cerniak, Morgan DeGroot, Alicia Lauder, and Christy Lees. You are our 10 winners. Yay! Congratulations, you guys. We'll post an image later, like I said. How are you guys feeling? I'm especially interested in hearing from those of you that have finished the lab assignments, that have gone through all 10. Let me grab some water. Your questions and comments are a bit delayed. Let me pull up. Okay. Yes, huge congrats. Lots of love coming from the community. For all of you, honestly, I pop in prizes simply because I know that can help, just having a little bit of an extra reason to do the work, but it's total, far out extra bonus, because the real prize is that feeling that you have in showing up for yourself in this way. And I assure you that in leading yourself with this level of personal responsibility, it's going to be very interesting and important that you notice what shows up for you this year. How you are given more, how you are given the dreams in your heart. I mean, they're not just given, right? You show up for them. Some questions are coming in, or comments. Let me just see here. I can't read names over here. Oh, I see one here. Okay, Elizabeth Turley said, I found through my time tracker that my passion for my work and development tends to be where I lean in most in a slightly unhealthy level. To those like me, what would you speak into that? And any tips on turning off passion for personal to be more present in relationships? Okay, so Elizabeth's saying that her passion for work and development tends to be what she focuses on most, and it gets to an unhealthy level. I can relate to that. Because when you are in work that you love, there are days where, I mean, I hear you. I can work all day long sometimes because it's life-giving to me to show up with my gifts and lead within that. And so what has really helped me, and I want to offer this to you, block off the time in your calendar to protect what you want to see more of in relationships in your life. So maybe that's time with your family. Think about that day by design. Parkinson's law, I want you guys to look this up. I've talked about this in the past. It's a law that understands that things will take however long you give them. So work, what you're defining as work in a typical day, it's taking up however much time you're giving it. If you only gave yourself an hour to complete the thing, it would get done in an hour. If you gave yourself 4 hours, you would actually take that long to do the thing. And so I would revisit the optimization cycle, Elizabeth. I would think about where you can automate things differently, where you can delegate, and what needs to come off altogether, right? There are definitely things I'm sure you're doing that don't actually light you up, that you're doing just because you think you're supposed to. What if you could trade that time in for more time in your relationships? Okay, lots of comments, awesome. I just want to see if there's any other questions before we wrap up. That was a really great question though, because again, when you're doing that work and it obviously took work to get to this point. For you, Elizabeth, for anyone else that can relate, there have been seasons and years in your life where you dreaded going into work, right? And that is, that's a really tough experience when you're working for someone else and it's just not lighting you up anymore, and you are literally trading your time away from what's most important to you. So this is actually a good place to be in, because it sounds like you're in control of that. You design how much time you're giving to something. I'm assuming you're not going in and working for someone else, and it's an unhealthy amount of time, because that's a different conversation, right? But this, when you own your own business, for example, that is where optimization really comes in. That's why it's important to check in with your time. That's why we begin there, tracking our time, so we can really see, okay, where is all my time going? How can I optimize this and do better so that things are feeling more balanced, right? And like I said, there are seasons where your work is where you need to show up most. And I think communication is really important with your family. I have that conversation with Chris when I know I'm moving into a high creation season, like I'm just finishing right now. He knows that. And I see where we can get that extra help. The kids even know it as they're getting older. We have conversations about that. But now they know, like, Mama's off the grid for a couple of weeks in December, and then we travel together as a family after Christmas. So we've got a lot of that family time coming up. And that's something to keep in mind, especially if you find yourself comparing your amount of output to other people. Keep in mind, everybody's doing this in a way that works for them. So if you see somebody putting a crazy amount of output out and you're judging yourself or comparing yourself to them, Don't do that, because they probably have a season coming up where they're not going to be doing that. So just decide what your output is and in what areas, and own it and communicate it and look forward to the next season, okay? I wish I could read your names through BeLive, but somebody said, I feel so calm and excited for the new year after finishing this lab work. Love this program so much. A lot of you are commenting on just the feeling that you have going through this process. Feeling excited to start the new year with these tools and how they can help me to lead myself. Awesome. Question came up. I have a question around a behavior pattern that does not serve my best self. Any suggestions for how to quit something? Just put it down and never look back. This is especially related to the way I handle situations with my children. Okay, so I want to share a very practical example of this, of quitting something that we know is not serving us. So my stepdad smoked his whole life, and he was desperate to quit it. It just had such a grip on him. And so it was not enough for him to just say, I'm going to quit and just put it down and never look back. That did not work for him. Maybe this isn't working for you. And so what I wanted to share worked for him was to think about, first of all, what was triggering his, in this example, what was triggering him to reach for a cigarette, okay? He used to smoke a pack a day. So it was there were these, very particular times he would reach for it. And so first acknowledging that, okay, I always tend to go for a cigarette when we go outside. He's an electrician. So when we go outside to grab something from the truck, let's say. And so what he did was he practiced acknowledging each time he wanted to reach for a cigarette. And so in this example, let's say you want to shift the way you're showing up and responding to your kids. So practice noticing when you start to feel like you're gonna just blow. What's the situation, and what can you own in that situation to decrease the amount of times it's happening? Like, for example, if you notice you're always yelling at your kids in the morning before school, what can you own there? Where can you wake up 20 minutes earlier to help things get more organized in the kitchen and getting their stuff ready for getting out the door, and see what happens if you look at where you can take ownership first. But back to the cigarette story. With that, in addition to that, he thought of, okay, now with that awareness, what is something that I could do when I am feeling that trigger instead of reaching for a cigarette? Because something needs to replace what you're reaching for or what you're doing or how you're responding. And so in the cigarette example, he committed, because he was going off of 1 pack a day, that each week he would decrease by 1 cigarette a day. Okay, so maybe what you do is you decide, okay, what is the most, what part of the day has the most tension? Pick one time of day that you want to improve first. Not that you're never going to yell at your kids again, but pick one time and decide how you could fix it in that one time. And so what he started doing was, instead of reaching for that 1 cigarette, he cut back by 1 a week. Okay, he would grab a bottle of On Guard, because On Guard, for those of you that use doTERRA, if you know anybody that wants to quit smoking, quick hot health tip for you, he would take a drop of On Guard and put it right on his tongue, or you could just put it on the back of your hand and put it in his mouth. That the blend with the clove and the cinnamon and the wild orange, and it helps to stimulate the same kind of feeling he would have with the nicotine. And so his body started to recognize that as a good replacement. Pretty cool, right? And so he actually he quit smoking in a lot less time than he gave himself, because by the time he was able to cut back by 1 a week, over the course of a couple of weeks, he was ready to kick it all together. So the reason I'm sharing that with you is you have to start small. Don't just say, I'm going to totally quit something. Be realistic with yourself, but give yourself something to tune in, be aware, and replace it with something. So perhaps in one moment a day, instead of reacting to your kids and yelling, think about responding intentionally and understanding what led to that feeling, and practicing more patience in that moment, and just thinking about what you can own in that situation. How do you handle the gap between a team that isn't following where you're leading, committing to growth and boundaries, etc., but the next wave of leaders isn't there to fill the spots? They're on their way. So I'm going through this right now within the doTERRA extension of my business. Big turnover of leaders. Some who have quit altogether, many who have just quit energetically. That's okay. The thing, and the beautiful thing about this business, I mean, I managed people for a decade with Starbucks before this life. I would never want to go back to that. I don't have to manage people anymore. They choose. They totally choose whatever they want to do. And I am totally okay with it, because the only thing you can control is how you show up. I can't control what's the level of responsibility a leader on my team is willing to take. That's for them to decide, and they're going to receive the fruits of that effort, okay? It's what makes the doTERRA business particularly interesting, because it's when somebody isn't committed to growth and is quitting in this space, that pattern is going to show up again and again and again and again. They'll come up with a cute story about why it's not working, but the truth is they're not taking a level of personal responsibility for their effort and for their results. So, and I'm all for people moving on if it's not their life's work, right? So one of the, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. I've been within doTERRA, for example, I've been sharing the oils, building the business for almost 6 years. I have one of the largest teams in doTERRA, and I'll be doing this work for life. You guys get the feeling, if you've ever worked with me within the oil community, you know this is not a flash in the pan thing for me. I am so, because here's why. Everything I teach, everything I'm committed to learning about supports self-leadership. These oils support self-leadership. They support leading your health. They support coming home to your power, your true power. It's not an overnight thing for me. I will not be hopping on to do some other business next year, because this hasn't even started. This is, so I'm one of the lifers, right, within this work. You may not realize it like all the time, because I have many realms within my business, such as this program, but they all come together under the message of Lead Your Life. So what I would say to you is, don't worry. Lead yourself in such a way, in such a high integrity way. Commit to showing up for the work. Commit to a level of ownership within your business that nobody else on your team is willing to take, because that's okay. Within any work, you guys, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Like, bottom line, you've heard that before, right? Everybody would do it if it was super easy. One of the things that makes, you guys have heard of the law of diffusion of innovation, right? That there are early adopters within anything, and then there's the majority, and then there's the laggards. The reason there's even early adopters is because if the laggards picked up on something, like a lot of these conversations we're talking about, if the laggards picked up on it, then they would actually be early adopters, and there would be no such thing as early adopters. So even within the leadership realm, especially when you're, I guess I'm pretty sure this question came from somebody who has a doTERRA team, because it's a really interesting business. It actually doesn't matter if what your team's doing. If you're taking such a level of leadership and showing up anyway, you're going to keep attracting people. And also, I'm willing to bet that it's time for you to attract new people into your team, because the people that you attracted initially maybe weren't the lifers, because maybe you were giving off the energy of somebody who doubted yourself and wasn't fully all in. And so the people that were drawn to your work had that same energy, that same mentality. And that's totally normal, and that's totally fine. As you grow and as you're somebody committed to this work, you're going to attract a different person into your team. And so, hey, be totally cool with it. It's all part of the process. Last year around this time, I shared my predictions for 2019. And one of the things I shared was within the doTERRA business specifically, I called it out. I said, this will be the year you'll see a lot of people quitting on their business. And it's part of the process, okay? Because they were part of this initial wave, and they served a purpose during their time. And I love seeing people move on to other things just as much as I love seeing the lifers, because we're all here to do different things in life, okay? So be okay with it and just know you're attracting a new wave of leaders. Yes, you are. Maybe you don't know what they look like yet, but the cool thing is you keep showing up for the work. You're helping people in a very meaningful way. This is why in doTERRA there is such a big retention rate. It's a huge customer base. 90% of our 8 million plus people are customers, because this is about a lifestyle. This is not going away. You're in work that is not going away, and it's, in fact, it's only just begun. Only just begun, scratching the surface, right? So I don't even know if you're in doTERRA. I can't see who said this comment. I'm just making that assumption. But whatever, let's say you're not, what you do want to ask is the work I'm a part of something that's going to, is it changing the world? Are you part of a powerful, meaningful movement that is positively impacting the world? If you can honestly answer yes to that question, long game vision. Don't be looking right now at the people that you have that you worry they're not doing anything with this. They're not the ones that are meant to carry it forward, and that's totally cool. Be totally cool with it. Someone said, thank you, Ange. I feel a lot of shame around this. Your words were practical, applicable, and non-judgmental. Christine, yeah, awesome. Okay, great. All right, just lots of comments coming in. So I think we're gonna wrap up here. Yes, who just said The Infinite Game? Jackie, hey. The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. I just finished reading this book, and it's completely about this topic. Don't worry so much about the people that are playing a shorter game. Wish them all the success in the world, but be an example of what an infinite gamer looks like, how an infinite gamer shows up in their life, because that's a small population in our world. It's easy to hop, right? It's easy to quit something and hop on to the next. That's the norm. So you're going to see that even within a team, you'll see a lot of that, because that's the 90%, and that's okay. Like, no shame, no judgment on that. That's just, it is what it is, right? So be an example of the infinite gamer. And this program, you guys, this is why, of all the things, I mean, every once in a while I have somebody write me like, and I miss the days when you used to talk about recipes or workouts or just oils. I never really just talked about those things, but I get where they're coming from. However, that all became super boring to me, because without this foundation in place, those things aren't lasting. It's backwards to try to become healthier when we don't have a strong foundation of confidence in ourselves. We're chasing goals that are actually other people's goals for ourselves. We're defining success as what the world defines success, or our mother-in-law defines as success. We're actually not approaching it from a place of ownership. And so this is why I friggin' love this work so much, is because it's simple, it's honest, and it's about staying in your lane. It's about you. You lead yourself, you'll be given more to lead. You lead yourself, you'll be given a team to lead. You lead yourself, you'll be given money to lead through. You lead yourself, you'll be given a life that can only be experienced in good health, because you're leading yourself. You know what I mean? It's all connected. So anyway, I'm going to exit here, but we'll be back, like I said, December 29th. Plan to join us for the quarterly live stream. We'll be setting up Q1 of this year. We'll be talking about that, and I'll have a topic that we'll jam on. Thank you for being here. It means so much to me to be in this work with you, mobilizing leaders and This is a small but big community here. Small in the sense that there are very few people in our world today, it seems, that are interested and willing in doing this work, right? So while we have 2,500 or so of you in this group, it's a small population of people who are very focused on leading themselves first. It's the ultimate responsibility. Okay, mwah. Big love to you guys, and happy everything, whatever you celebrate over these next few weeks. Enjoy it, sink into it, really receive. That's what I think of in these next few weeks. Receive the love around you, receive the fruits of your work, and receive the gift of time. And I'll see you back here in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.